If I told you that a single stack of hay bales could unravel an entire neighborhood and expose a secret so wild, it made the HOA president choke on his clipboard, you might not believe me. But that morning, as I stood on my porch watching Karen storm across my driveway like she owned the soil under her shoes, I had no idea that her little crusade would come crashing down on her backyard. Literally. She didn't bother knocking. Karen never did. She jabbed her finger toward the stack of hay I'd stored neatly beside my barn, her eyes blazing like she'd rehearsed this confrontation in the mirror. "I've reported you," she announced triumphantly, emphasizing every word as if she were unveiling a royal decree. "Those hay bales are a violation of HOA aesthetics. They're unsightly." I blinked at her. Hay. On a farm. Unsightly. The irony hit me so hard. I nearly laughed. My property sat on the edge of the subdivision, zoned agricultural long before the HOA even existed. But Karen operated on emotion, not logic. And today, she was fueled by something far more potent than reason: petty determination. "You can't call the HOA on something they have no authority over," I told her calmly. But Karen only smirked, clutching her phone like a trophy. "They're already on their way," she said. "Let's see what they think." 20 minutes later, a white SUV with the HOA seal rolled up. Out stepped Mr. Hargrove, the president, stern, polished, and visibly annoyed to be summoned on a Tuesday morning. Karen practically sprinted to him, launching into an exaggerated report about dangerous agricultural clutter and visual pollution. I stood back, arms crossed, letting her dig her own hole. Hargrove listened, nodded slowly, then turned to me. "Mind if I take a look around?" "Go ahead," I said. After all, I had nothing to hide. But Karen did, because the moment Hargrove rounded the corner, toward her backyard, drawn by the suspicious that had been buzzing for weeks, his brows shot up, then his jaw dropped, and then, in a tone I'd never heard from him before, he muttered, "Oh, that's illegal." Karen froze. I watched the color drain from her face as the HOA president stared at the bubbling, steaming, fully plumbed backyard spa she'd installed without permits, inspections, or even a whisper to the board she worshipped so much. Karen opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For once, the woman who always had something to complain about stood speechless, staring at the evidence of her own hypocrisy. And my hay bales didn't matter at all. The silence in Karen's backyard was almost comical because the only thing making noise was her illegal spa, bubbling like a pot about to boil over. Mr. Hargrove stood there, clipboard loosened in his grip, staring at the steaming contraption as if unsure whether to scold her, or ask how she'd even managed to install something so obviously against every rule in the HOA handbook. Karen finally found her voice. "I can explain," she stammered, stepping between Hargrove and the spa like her body could somehow hide the evidence. Spoiler, it couldn't. The thing was massive. LED lights, jets, the whole deluxe setup. It wasn't the kind of thing you accidentally placed in your yard. Hargrove's nostrils flared. "Karen, this is not only unapproved, it's unsafe. The wiring alone," he pointed at a tangled mess of extension cords snaking across her damp lawn, "is a fire hazard and a code violation." I tried not to smile. Truly I did. But after the lecture she'd given me about neighborhood standards, watching her get caught in a violation 10 times worse than hay storage was poetic. Karen switched tactics. "He distracted me," she blurted, pointing at me like I was some kind of villain. He keeps those hideous hay bales, and I was overwhelmed." Hargrove looked at her, then at me, then back at her. "That has nothing to do with this," he said flatly. "You filed a complaint over something outside our jurisdiction, while hiding this." The way Karen winced at the word hiding told me everything. She knew what she'd done. She just didn't expect to be caught. And Hargrove was just getting started. "Karen, did you get a permit for electrical work?" "No." "Did you submit the construction form to the HOA?" "No." "Did you notify your neighbors about the noise and drainage changes?" "What?" That last one seemed to genuinely confuse her. Karen only understood rules when they benefited her complaints. When applied to her, they may as well have been written in a foreign language. Then came the moment I knew things were about to get serious. Hargrove turned on his heel and spoke firmly. "I'm going to need pictures for the report." Karen's hands flew up. "No! You can't document this. It's not. This is harassment." But her panic only made him more determined. He lifted his clipboard like a sword of justice and began snapping photos. Each click was another nail in the coffin of her superiority complex. I stood at the fence, watching her spin in circles, trying to block the camera, trying to argue, trying to undo what was already done. But the truth was out, and Karen knew it. And for the first time, she wasn't in control. Because 2 days after the backyard incident, the HOA called for an emergency compliance hearing, a meeting Karen, usually chaired with pride, pointing out every small violation like she was the sheriff of suburban town. But this time, she wasn't sitting at the head of the table. She wasn't even sitting in the middle. She sat in the complaint seat, the one normally reserved for neighbors who left their trash, cans out too long or painted their shutters the wrong shade of beige. And she looked miserable. I walked in because I'd been invited as the affected neighbor. Honestly, I didn't even know what that meant until I saw the stack of printed photos on the table, pictures of her illegal spa, wiring, pipes, and the massive trench she'd dug for drainage. They documented everything. When Mr. Hargrove entered, the whole room went quiet. He cleared his throat and said, "We are here to address a serious violation of HOA policies." Karen immediately raised her hand like a student begging to speak. "Hargrove, please. There's been a misunderstanding." "Karen," he cut in sharply, "you will have your turn." Her jaw clenched so tight I could hear her teeth grind. He began reading the list of violations. Unauthorized construction, electrical hazards, noise violations, drainage concerns, failure to file installation permits, willful concealment of modifications from the board. The list went on so long that even I felt a little bad for her. Almost. When it was finally her turn to speak, Karen did what Karen always does. She tried to shift the blame. None of this would have happened if he, she pointed dramatically at me, hadn't cluttered his yard with hay bales. It's an eyesore. An agricultural mess. I called because I was trying to uphold standards. A board member leaned forward. But his property is exempt from HOA policies. Yours is not. That single sentence sucked the air out of the room. Karen blinked rapidly, like she'd been slapped with a wet newspaper. But I'm the one who enforces the rules. I can't violate them. I am the rules. The room murmured. And that's when Hargrove delivered the blow that finally broke her. "No, Karen," he said calmly. "You are a member of this community, and members follow the rules. They don't rewrite them." Her face crumpled. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just quietly. Like the weight of her own actions finally settled on her shoulders. Then came the verdict. Fines. Mandatory removal of the spa. A temporary suspension from all HOA leadership roles. Karen looked at me, maybe for help, maybe for sympathy. But she found neither. This time, she'd dug her own hole, and fallen straight into it. If the HOA hearing had been a storm, what followed was the thunderclap. Because while Karen was busy dealing with fines, paperwork, humiliation, and the forced removal of her illegal spa, the universe wasn't quite finished teaching her a lesson. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of construction equipment, not on my property, but in Karen's yard. A licensed contractor crew had arrived, sent directly by the HOA to dismantle the spa before it caused a fire, flood, or full-on neighborhood disaster. They didn't even knock on her door first. Karen had lost her right to delay anything. I stood on my porch sipping coffee, watching the scene unfold. Karen rushed outside in her robe, waving her arms like she could stop the inevitable. "You can't touch that!" she shouted. One of the workers shrugged. "Ma'am, the order's signed. We're required to remove it before someone gets hurt." She paced back and forth, muttering about injustice and sabotage. But the truth was simple. She'd broken the rules she claimed to protect. Piece by piece, the spa came apart. LED lights unplugged, panels removed, plumbing detached. And the moment they pulled up a section of piping, something unexpected happened. A flood of murky water spilled into the yard and rolled right into her cherished flower beds. Her reaction was immediate and dramatic. "My begonias!" she wailed, dropping to her knees like a soap opera star. The workers exchanged looks, trying not to laugh. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But the real twist came when Hargrove walked up the driveway holding a folder. "Karen," he said, "we have one more matter to discuss." She froze. "There's more?" "Yes." He opened the folder. "Several neighbors have come forward with concerns about your behavior, false reports, harassment, excessive complaints without cause, and misuse of HOA authority." Karen's jaw fell open. "People complained about me?" 6 households, he said, unanimously. Her eyes darted around as if searching for allies, but no one stepped in. No one defended her, not even the neighbors she tried to police into perfection. Hargrove continued. "The board has decided to place you on a 6-month probation. During this time, you may not file complaints unless there is an immediate safety concern. Violations will result in suspension of membership privileges." She looked like the world had tilted beneath her feet. "But I was trying to help the neighborhood," she whispered. "Helping," he replied, "is different from controlling." And that was the moment, the exact second. Karen finally understood that the rules she'd weaponized against others had finally turned back on her. When the last piece of the illegal spa was hauled away, Karen stood in her yard quietly, almost humbled. Meanwhile, my hay bales sat untouched. undisturbed and fully legal, exactly where they belonged. For once, the neighborhood felt peaceful. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button. For more crazy HOA and Karen stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because there are even more shocking twists and real-life dramas coming soon. And tell me in the comments what you would have done in this situation, and what kind of story you want to see next.